opinion, and that was the first meeting as well. So
Right.
I mean, don't give me a break.
That was a good first meeting.
That was a good first meeting. That was a good thing. You caught that, and now knowing if any of us catch an issue like, hey, this wasn't done right, if we get it off the agenda item and get it corrected, it'll make the meetings go a little smoother instead of trying to have a discussion before bam.
I think if we all understand, we can share information without everybody then responding with their opinions and seeking. We're not seeking responses. We all know. We're just like, hey, this is some information that came up, so at least everyone will have it before the meeting. I think that we can implement something like that, and that's fine. I don't have any problem with that.
Yeah, there's a difference between sharing facts and sharing opinions.
And I think a lot of times I fear that if I send it out, I'm going to get 6 responses, and I don't want 6 responses. You know, I don't want 4.
Disclaimer, do not respond.
Yeah, like I've hit my limit. I have 3. Please stop. You know, so.
We're right. One of the things we're talking about here is making a good decision based on the information being supplied to us. Now, one of the things I chafe against is that I don't feel we always get the information supplied. And my example is going to be, unfortunately, using Lou. And we're working through this where the smart meters came to council, no financial justification whatsoever. I come from several decades of corporate experience. You know, you don't get the money if you can't justify how or why it makes sense to spend it. You just don't get it, and you'd be laughed out of the room, and you may not even get to keep your job. So you just don't do it that way. And we're saying, yeah, okay, naughty, 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 you're supposed to read your packet. The packet isn't complete. We're still getting information, you know, several days into when supposedly the packet was available. So we need to make a rule that if council is responsible for educating ourselves, then all of the appropriate information is provided in a timely manner. And we don't have that situation.
We don't, and we're all guilty of it. And, you know, if in fact it's appropriate for a certain date to have information submitted by, then quite frankly, I think that's probably a good idea. But you know, what's the expectation? Some people turn stuff in later. We let it go. Not just staff, but council. So if we're going to have the expectation that you're suggesting, which I think is good, then we need to set a guideline and then everybody follow it.
Mark, what's the smart meter mean? Parking meter?
Yeah.
What happened?
When it first came onto the agenda in the last meeting,
Right.
we had no financials.
Right.
Staff wanted this. Council had a, to your point, council had a yes/no vote. Staff had obviously done a lot of work. There was no information provided to us to make a good decision.
Just send the financials of how much it costs.
Not only how much does it cost, but, you know, is the town better off giving you a $15 ticket financially?
No, I'm saying we didn't have enough. Yeah, and then we didn't have why.
We didn't have any of it.
Justification.
So there was nothing. So other than, this is what it costs, this is what it's going to cost to maintain the system, we have the money, so yes or no.
We need a checklist then of each issue, like a general checklist of what we want to cover on each particular issue. And that might be one way of saying, well, staff can make it. And then make sure they have everything we want on each particular issue, and it's like a guideline. And then we know, like, this is, why didn't we have this? Because we already gave them that expectation. If we wanted financials, we wanted this. I mean, we just say we really need a checklist for each issue. And that would,
I guess I don't see it that way, but I'm happy to
Not
have a
us to direct
checklist, but,
not for us, for staff.
you know, if, my perspective is this, we look to staff to be excellent in their fields. We're rookies. All of us come from different backgrounds. We're the average person on the street elected to this position. You know, we don't have legal expertise. Some of us don't have financial expertise. We have our own individual backgrounds and perspectives and knowledge levels and abilities. Abilities to read, abilities to make good decisions, abilities to communicate. We're just average, ordinary people. You know, staff are the experts. And to that, from my experience, you know, again, in the corporate world, when it comes to making financial decisions, the board of directors doesn't have to tell anybody, you know, how to prepare the information for that decision to be made. You either do it well, or you find a different job.
So,
And that's not a threat. I'm just saying that's my background.
so when we have an agenda packet and are preparing for a meeting, not only do we want to see, and this is me thinking out loud, just trying to understand what you're saying, because I believe the same thing, is not only is it really good to have an executive summary, bringing together maybe all of the background, so it's clear and concise, but also that idea of showing your work. How did we get to this decision? What was the background? What were the conversations? Where did it come from? All those factors that play in. What were the other ideas? How did we rule those out?
Yeah, and I disagree with Marge a little bit on this, in that ours is not a yes/no decision. I don't believe that. I believe ours is this the best decision for our future? And since we can't talk to each other and email privately, you know, we hash that out at the table. That's why that's happening there.
And what we vote on can change. I mean,
Well, and
it
that's
doesn't
the
have
other
to
thing.
be-
People
doesn't
say
mean
things
that
at the
it's
table
wrong.
that trigger a thought. And so now you have a question you didn't have before. To Polly's point, I didn't think of asking that question is because Luke didn't raise something, or Stu didn't say something, or, you know, March hadn't weighed in yet. Once you weigh in, okay, that raises a different set of questions. Now how about this, this, and this, and this? So I don't see it as a yes/no opportunity. I see it as a much more involved opportunity. And the other thing, quite frankly, from my perspective, staff wants what staff wants. And we've seen evidence of that just recently. You know, if they don't like the answer, it comes back for a second vote. I completely disagree with that process. And when I've asked for things in public, I've asked for staff to bring options forward for us to discuss and for us to make decisions. I haven't asked for a specific thing. I've asked for the options to be brought forward. And I've asked for a timeline for those options to be brought forward. And we haven't got one. And I've asked, where's the update on my timeline? And we haven't got one. So, yes, I'm frustrated.
And I did want to say, I didn't, and if the implication from what I said was that I thought that having that discussion was a bad thing, I don't feel that way at all. I was just saying that I get frustrated sometimes when these things stall. And it's sort of what you just said with you asking for deadlines for it to come back and it never comes back. To me, that's stalling.
I just want a schedule.
I
When's
just
it coming?
get frustrated at that point.
Well, I mean, sometimes things stall because there's disagreement. I mean, you're upset that it stalled, but I might be upset that it moves forward suddenly, you know? Or the opposite way around, depending on what the issue is. So it's your perspective of the issue and what the residents and who you're representing, you know, what their opinion is.
On the financials? This council staff issue is a good one for you to talk about, because one of the observations that I had was that this is one of the disconnects that exists. That is a disconnect in communication and then a result in trust and confidence between the board, between council and the staff. And I think opening these lines of communication, of course, the staff is here listening to all of you, and so obviously so is the manager. So this kind of conversation is a great one for you to have, so that they understand where you come from on this.
You're coming back to this, I think it's expectations, but also tracking where things are. And because I know I send things out to staff, and I want to know, I mean, I kind of feel like it disappears because we won't have anything that says, Stu asked for these items, either against DelDOT or against, or some other item, where do they stand, where are the statuses, when was the last review? And I really think that we should have something, I don't know if it's the city secretary or who it is, that is working as these are the items that have come in that need to be responded to, tracked, whatever it is, and when was the last time there was a response? Because they could be working on something, but it takes a month, but I don't know that. I'm frustrated because I can't respond to a constituent because I don't have any information.
And the other thing is, a lot of those items, I don't know what timeline you're talking about on what item, which is a problem. So you may have in your certain districts, certain questions you've asked or projects you're working on or answers you need that's not disseminated to the rest of council. So we have no idea, the rest of us perhaps. Well, I know that's a fact.
And let's tie
So,
up
I
the
mean,
loop,
somehow, that's a communication breakdown.
and let's tie up the loop and include the public in the same comment. You know, there are questions out there that I won't speak for anyone in particular, but I can guess that there are questions that the public have that if everybody could log on and see the answer or see that the answer's coming, you know, we might have a different perspective.
But if we're not on the same page between the staff and council, there's no way we're gonna be on the same page with the public. So, and the same page is, it's not them necessarily not providing us stuff, it's not us not necessarily providing them information. It's that we're not communicating and setting realistic goals and deadlines and schedule submissions for information. So the onus is on us, in my perspective, just from what I've seen, just as much, if not more, on them.
I'm not saying on, and I don't know who you mean by them, if you're talking
The
staff or the public.
Sorry, the staff.
Okay, okay. And
I'm not convinced we've done our part either, and that's one of the reasons I thought today would be productive. Because I think there can be things that staff and council can work on so that we are more effective in communicating information, and therefore then the public will get that information and feel like they are part of the process as well.
I think what we're talking about exists definitely corporately. Workflowing, visibility, tracking, project management. And I wouldn't know the first place to look to implement software like this. My assumption is it's really expensive, and I'm not talking hundreds of thousands, it's probably hundreds of millions, and more staff to run that sort of thing. But I could be completely wrong. Maybe staff is already in the works or have done the research on something like this, but the technology exists, it's being implemented in other places. It would be wonderful to have that here.
I think it could be simpler than that, I'm sorry, Carol. I think it could be a follow-up, like we have tabled items, we call it like a follow-up list, and it could come out in your weekly report, just pop, 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 this is the follow-up, so we can read that. That would make sense to me, instead of spending, hundreds of millions of dollars, it's just, how many issues are there?
Yeah, that can happen, and in fact, it used to happen. There used to be, after council meetings, there used to be, I don't know what it was called, but there was we all got it, council members and staff got, these are the things that were left undone or that are coming up, so we can read. It's
Like a status
We
update.
agree.
I can also share that Public Works has already, because of we've been getting a lot of maybe 10-item lists from various council members with, all kinds of different topics that require outreach to DelDOT or DMAC, or you name any agency that we're dealing with. And they were having trouble keeping up with it, so Public Works, Water Resources, Tom has put in something in play already to help him manage the inquiries and the responses. And so it is something that we are feeling that we need to look into. And there are some systems out there that aren't as expensive, but we have to do the research to see what the best thing is for our organization. But it's definitely something that we're interested to, because it is hard to keep up with every council member's requests, lists of requests, and getting back to them, all in a timely fashion.
There's another thing, I'm a visual person, so I often describe things in analogies, metaphors, that sort of thing, and I envision the functionality between council and staff, almost like a lopsided hourglass, where there's 7 of us that all flow it into communicating to and from Renee, and then Renee to essentially everyone else in staff and constituents as well. It's her job to collect our thoughts, wishes, directions. It's also her job to collect, well, oftentimes disseminate those and then collect them back, but collect all of the other departments back, get the information that's needed, preparation, the work, all that stuff. Maybe just to create a packet supporting an agenda for a particular council meeting. And I'm concerned that maybe there's some breakdowns or some inefficiencies or some lack of functioning well there. Renee, if you had feelings on that, I don't know if right now is the best time to talk about it, but I'm definitely interested in it. And am I correct in the way I'm kind of describing that?
Well, I think, we've talked about, I'll refer back to the packet item or the packet issue that was discussed before about, setting deadlines and, making sure everything's in. And I think, staff has been working and making sure that, things seem to be getting pushed later and later sometimes as far as getting the packet out. We're trying to, make sure that, we're getting the agenda finalized earlier in the day so we can get it to the newspaper in a timely fashion and get it on the website that day. We're trying to make sure we have as many packet items, finished and ready to go by 4 o'clock so we can, get the packets put together for you guys so they're ready for, the paper packets are ready for pickup and I can email you things before we leave, We have, I've been as guilty as some other staff members in getting things late. You all have your minutes to approve for the last 2 meetings on your desk this morning, so you can look at them over the weekend for Monday. So they weren't ready to go on Monday. So I'm not, I'm as guilty as anybody else of not having things necessarily ready on the 7 days in advance that we have the packets ready for you guys. So as far as efficiencies and funneling things, I think, my previous life to the city was, working in constituent services for the county. So I don't know that the role that of the city secretary in the past has necessarily been to funnel all council issues to this position. It's been more to the city manager as far as, that's the traditional structure that has happened before I got here. I don't know if that's something that council necessarily wants me to step into, or if they want to send them to Carol and have Carol disseminate them through the departments. I mean, that's something that, some council direction on that topic would be appreciated.
I think that's a really good topic. Then Carol, before you step in, Mark talked about it earlier, and I know that he and I specifically have had these conversations a lot since I was elected, is changing what, correct or incorrect, was a perception of the functionality of the City of Newark municipal government for the last several decades, in that the city manager was in fact acting in a position of CEO and being directive of council. And all of us have knocked on the doors where we were accused of being the rubber stamp for the staff, right? And so, Renee, what you just spoke to might be a way of some council members to begin shifting the ability for council to be more directive for staff and to get in line with the way I believe our government is supposed to work. Mark, you described it. Collect the policy direction, feelings, feedback from constituents, filter that, package it, and present it back to management, present it to the rest of council to see if an actual policy change needs to exist or a modification of some sort. And that I think is a bit of a struggle. Historically, right or wrong, welcome to feedback on this, but it has seemed like because council is part-time, or several individuals kind of doing our own thing, that it's difficult and it hasn't happened too much in the past, or as much as maybe everyone would have liked it to. The council is the direction setters, rather than just every other Monday getting a packet and making some decisions on whatever staff was looking to do. And so what Renee spoke to, what Mark spoke to, I think all plays into that. How is it working? How should it work? And how, let's make however it should work well and correctly.
I mean, I think part of it for us is we have so many things going on. When you think about this, I mean, we have so many good things we're working on, so many things we're adding to the agenda every 2 weeks. And, you know, part of me says maybe we have too much on the plate. You know, maybe we need to not fill the plate ever so full every 2 weeks. And we have a lot of new council members, and we have council members that have been serving in this role for a number of years. We all have good ideas. We all are passionate about this, it seems to me, and we all want to bring those ideas to the table and work on projects and make things happen. So that's a good thing. But we do have a lot on the plate, and I think that's where part of the communication has entered into the picture, and it's been broken down, is because we have so much going on. We have so much going on in each district that the next district doesn't know about. So I think this is a real opportunity for us.
If I could jump in for a second. One of the tragedies that I see is that we ask questions and we don't know certain things. There is expertise in the room here, not only on staff. There are any number of folks that, you know, when you mention prices for software to do such and such a thing, that expertise is sitting in this room today. And that expertise is you know, saying, hey, you could do it this way, you could do it this way, you could do it this way, you could do it this way. And you know, to the degree that there are 7 of us, and there are 20 or 30, you know, staff director levels and not director levels, obviously, but, you know, supervisors and everybody else. But there's 15,000 good ideas in this town as well. And there are expertise in any number of things that anybody does for a living. And we could tap into that. We have that expertise sitting here, literally sitting here right now. Some of it, not everybody. Obviously, there aren't 15,000 people in the room. So it's not just the 7 of our ideas. Yes, we have good ideas, but
Well, and ultimately, we're getting those ideas from the people that we represent.
if we ask for them, we are.
Well, we have to ask, that's the thing, and that goes back to like being able to pull your folks or have some kind of newsletter that can be sent out to say, what are your areas of expertise, do you want to serve on any committees, here are the committees that the city has to offer, and be able, the ability to send that to them, to get that expertise. The city needs that. I would love to be able to call on someone on District 2 on a particular issue, because I already have a spreadsheet that says this person's an expert in this area.
Our role as leaders is to set that safety and that culture. You know, in business, we prepare culture. We build culture. An excellent leader, the difference between a good leader and a bad leader is the attention to setting culture. And I think one of our primary jobs is to set the culture, that the expertise, or even just the concerns from the public is one of our most vital resources.
I also believe that that culture has been set to some degree. And I am certainly bringing to the table ideas that I have heard from people in the community. So I don't think we're starting from ground zero. I think that we need to figure out how to do a better job at it. I certainly think many of you at this table are bringing ideas to the city staff and to council that you have heard and discussed with your constituents. So, you know, we need to do a better job of it. And we need to figure out how we can do a better job of it.
Well, certainly, we have an opportunity for an educational process here, what's expected, how we're gonna keep track of different ideas, and we can solicit the public if we make those lists available, that these are the things being considered. Would you like to participate? Would you like to contribute? I have one concern about the city secretary's office being the direct funnel. We have to be careful with their charter, because I can't find the exact wording, but it does say council will deal with the city manager through that for the staff. We can always ask questions. We gotta be very careful about how that goes, if it goes to the city manager, it's not direction, because she can't do that.
Yeah, I realize that because I saw your eye specifically with all your institutional knowledge. My understanding is that only Carol can direct any staff member to take action, and we direct Carol. Other than Carol, Renee's the only other position that
City solicitor.
answers, and city solicitor, right? So there's a handful. What I guess I was referring to more than anything else in the question to Renee was that role that she fulfills in collecting information from staff to prepare agenda packets and things like that more than anything else. In terms of trying to get something done, yeah, it has to go through management office, CC, or direct. Carol, please help me get this done with the appropriate department, that sort of thing.
We can always direct the city manager by a vote, any type of 4-3 vote. And previous city managers, we sometimes had to bring that to the table that you will do it this way, even though you disagree. I mean, we have 2 generations ago of a city manager, but that's the way you had to get something done, because that was the culture. We have a much different staff now, and we have different managers, so I don't feel like the culture is quite that way. I felt like I had to come to the table and say, you will do it this way. So we have an opportunity to get things done without everything having to be forced to a vote.
This is an interesting issue because in your organizational chart, it's a little unusual. It's my definition, not anybody else's. In that, your council up top, with the manager underneath you, and the staff, but now you got the city secretary, okay? So it's a different kind of thing. And I think what's important in that is that the city secretary and the manager communicate. I mean, you can discuss whether it comes through Renee, whether it comes through Carol, whether it comes through both, but as long as the 2 of them are communicating effectively, and I think that's happening, and I think it's going to continue to happen, then that, if you will, kind of procedural bump in the road is going to be minimal. So.
David, I'm going to just jump in for a second. The org chart you're speaking of has the public on top, council underneath, city manager under that, staff below it. I looked at it last night.
There's no confusion for me where the constituents are, the public are. I guess you referenced a lot because you feel like the culture or the process is forgetting that. Do you have any recommendations for a solution?
I think until we all agree that that's the correct expectation, the correct culture. That, and I guess